we've been kind of on this roll lately, coming off of Easter, going into Easter, preparing for Easter, getting ready for Easter and all that. We talked about Jesus and all the cool things that he did, and I don't know why, but I just can't let go of this. It's this idea of this thought that when I look at his life and I think how amazing it was, the one thing that I noticed is that he never forgot. He never forgot to take the time to do what he needed to do to take care of his inner world and that interconnection. He never forgot that. And yet, for us, we do that so easily. I mean, and I'm not talking about like forgetting your keys. That's a whole different sermon. We're not going there, right? I'm talking about that peace that's inside of us, that we all have inside of us, that's there, just waiting to be brought back to life. Or I would even say remembered. And when I say remembered, is in to do it again, membered, to pull together. Remembered, right? Because it's easy to forget who we are. I want you to imagine for a second, if you will, if you'll dare to go here with me, I want you to imagine before you came down here, you were one, you were unified, you were whole. And we decided, for whatever crazy reason, that we wanted to come down here. And the minute we came down here, guess what happened? You're separate. You're separate. What does that mean? That means you've got the physical body, the ego, all of those kinds of things. But what we have forgot is there's another whole part of us, and that's called your divinity or your soul. And we forgot it. Willingly, by the way. This wasn't forced on you. It was done willingness because, what did I say earlier? We all came down here to learn some stuff, and that's how we decided to learn it. So there's this immediate separation. And if we're not careful, what happens is we can completely forget, well, why did we come down here? What are we doing down here? What are we really doing down here? Why is this happening? And it's not because of God. We often think that God has left us. God hasn't left anybody, anywhere. God is with you 24/7. In fact, it's kind of impossible for God not to be there, really, when you talk about it. And we live in this world, and it's so crazy. It's like, the more I thought about this, the more I'm really believing that it's literally a program that has been handed down to us that's very, very intentional. It is, in my opinion, and my observation of living down here. Because I'm not void of the same issue, right? Because I don't know about you, but do you occasionally look like this? Yeah. Notice he's got a computer and his phone going at the same time. And so we get sucked into these things. We get sucked into our electronics. We get sucked into everything else that takes way more priority than what? Right here. It takes more priority. And so we get lost. It's like the world is constantly going, hey, look over here. Hey, look over here. Hey, look over here. No, this is important. And everything's trying to get our attention that's outside of us. And it's this program. It's this thing that is constantly calling us to pay attention to everything except for what? Right here. Right here. And before we know it, our entire life is focused on everything out there. And then guess what happens? We forget. The next thing you know, we're living our life, and we're thinking, okay, cool, I'm just living my life. I'm just doing this little gig here, this little game here. And yet I know because I know because I know because I know. There's always something that's tapping you on the shoulder and going, hey, something is missing. Anybody here experience that? All raise your hand. Everybody, raise your hands. Raise your hands. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we all do it. We all do it. And so there's this thing that's going on because we're not taught. The lesson isn't to prioritize our inner life. It's not. We're taught everything else, right? We're taught to take care of our physical health. We're taught to take care of our finances. We're taught to take care of our careers and relationships, everything else. In other words, take care of everything, and guess where we put ourselves in our own inner world? Guess where that goes on the to-do list? At the bottom. Absolutely goes to the bottom. And as a result of it, we constantly live our lives running on a hamster wheel and we're wondering why, what's going on here? There's got no meaning to it. It's got no depth. And why is that? Because we forgot to take care of our inner world. And so the message this morning is, what would happen if you actually decided to change that? What would your life look like if you started to make that a priority instead of ignoring it, right? We've got these, on our computers, we got these 47 tabs in our brain, all the time. And I don't know about you, but man, sometimes during the course of a day, the last thing I'm possibly thinking about is my divinity or God, right? And it's not that those things are wrong, so there's no judgment here, but it's like, wouldn't it kind of make sense to know that if your happiness, your true happiness, comes from within you, wouldn't it just kind of make sense that you might want to spend a little bit of time with that? Just asking, throwing that out there just in the for what it's worth category or question, right? Because here's the thing, this is the thing that gives meaning to everything. And it's the thing that unfortunately we neglect the most. It is, right? Why is our connection to God the first thing to go when things get crazy? I often talk to clients I'm working with, and it's so interesting because when I'm talking to them, I'll say, well, so what are you doing? What's going on in your life right now? And they'll sit there and give me the big to-do list. And in that list, there's no taking care of myself. In my opinion, that should, number one, be on top of the list, number one. Number two, you should spend twice as much time taking care of yourself when you're going through a hard time in your life. Why? Because you need it. Because you're going through a hard time in your life, right? But we don't do that. We focus on everything outside of ourselves because, well, we got to take care of this, or we got to figure out a way to go make more money, or I got to take care of all the things. And then the list. And then at the end of the day, we put our head on the pillow and we're exhausted. We feel completely disconnected. And if that continues over a long amount of time, then ultimately you start feeling like what? That pretty much sum it up? That pretty much sums it up. Yeah. So for some of us, it just didn't start with the distraction. It started with the way that we were actually taught. So how many of you did it sound something like this because of the way that we were introduced to God? The way I was introduced to God, which sounded something like this. Do this or else. Believe this or else. Follow these rules or else. And when that becomes your foundation, I have a question for you. How does that feel? Does it feel like the true gift that it is? Or does it feel yucky? I'm using some really high-tech, sophisticated words this morning, in case you haven't noticed. Yucky, thank you. There's a lot of yuck in that, right? It feels like pressure. It feels like performance. It feels like something that you can actually get wrong. It feels like failure, thank you. Yes. And it was never, ever, 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 did I say that enough times, meant to be that way. Ever. Never. So what do? We drift. Why? Because it's like we feel like, it's like, why bother? Because something inside of us has been telling us something is not right with this setup. Something's wrong with this setup. It's not right. I don't know it. All I can tell you is internally, something is telling me that something is off. Something is off. And then, thank goodness, we can go back and we can study the masters. And of course, most of the time, I'm going to reference Jesus, but sometimes I reference Buddha, and there are others. But JC's cool, right? So he didn't teach, you're broken, now behave. That was not Jesus' message, even though some would have you believe that. That wasn't true. Jesus said you're created in the image and likeness of God, that you're a child of God, that you're unconditionally loved. The kingdom of heaven is within you. God is not distant, God is present. Those are the things, some of the things that Jesus taught, right? And then he did something even more radical. He actually lived it. So the beautiful lesson about Jesus is he didn't just get up there and get on a stool and he lived it. He was the living embodiment of these truths, of these principles. He remembered, even when others forgot. And what did he do? He spent his entire life reminding people who they are. That's what Jesus did. So imagine if instead of being taught the stuff that we were taught, for those of you that went through the fundamental part of your life, like I did, imagine if you were taught that you were actually, instead of a sinner, imagine you were a blessing. Imagine you were taught this idea of this child of God, not a mistake to correct. Imagine, in truth, that you really are unconditionally loved. You really are. Not conditionally accepted with a list of 10 things that you got to do or else. Imagine that everything you need is within you. So if you were to learn these things, that God is always with you, not just when you get it right, that there's a voice within you and it's worth listening to, guess what happens? Then it takes all the responsibility, all of it. It takes it all away from something outside of you And it puts it where? Whoa. Really? Really. So then all of a sudden, this whole thing about my own enlightenment, my own awakening, my own peace, my own joy, my own happiness isn't because of something outside of myself? No. And then I'm responsible for it? Yeah. Whoa. That's pretty heavy. But it's incredibly empowering. Incredibly empowering, right? So as I was thinking about this, I started thinking about, okay, well, what story could possibly tie this together? And the thought of the prodigal son found in the Gospel of Luke. And in plain language, the story is, how many don't know the prodigal son story? I'm just curious. A few, that's fine. So a man has two sons, and the younger one goes to his father and basically says, hey, and this man was of good means, he was wealthy, and this one son says, hey, I want my inheritance now. I don't want to wait for it, right? Which, if you're being honest, if you think about it, it's the ancient equivalent of saying, hey, I wish you were dead now, so why wait, right? That's kind of what he was saying. But the father, being a wise man, says, okay, fine, I'll give you your inheritance now. And the son leaves home. He goes off into a distant country, as the story goes, and spends everything he has. He blows it. And then eventually the money runs out. And just to add insult to injury, famine hits. And it gets even harder. And then he finds himself, actually, the story is, he's feeding pigs, and he's starving, desperate. And then comes the turning point of the story. The scripture says, he came to himself. He came to himself. Not he figured it out, not that he got lucky, but he came to himself. And he remembers his father. And he decides to return home. Not as a son. In other words, when he says, okay, I'm going to go back there, I'm not going to be a son, I'm just going to serve him. I'm going to show up as a servant, right? And when he gets there, his father runs to him, embraces him, looks at him, and basically restores him completely. In other words, you're not going to show up as a servant, you're going to be my son. There's no punishment, there's no lecture, just love, right? Meanwhile, guess who has a problem with that? The brother. The brother has an issue with it, right? He did everything right, and he's not thrilled about this whole thing. Wait a minute, let me get this right. He goes off on a bender for about 5 years, comes back, and everything's okay. And what does the dad say? Yeah. He says, son, you are always with me, and all that I have is yours and will always be mine, and will always be yours. So this one's kind of easy in terms of metaphysical interpretation, but there's some gems in here that I want to talk about, because it's not just a story about a reckless kid and a very patient dad. Here's the truth. This story is about you and me. That's what the story is really about, right? This is the human condition in about 12 sentences in the Bible. So the Father obviously represents who? God. The Father represents God. Not a man in the sky keeping score, but the true, unconditional, loving God. The infinite loving, giving, presence that never holds back, always is giving, no conditions, no judgments, and I mean that wholeheartedly, pure beingness, pure love, right? Then the younger son, this is metaphysically represents the human soul, expressing through what Unity would call our sense consciousness. So what does the younger son want to do? Go out, let's rip it up, let's tear it up, let's go, yeehaw, let's go there, right? And it's a part of us that says, I got this. I don't need God, right? I'm going to go figure this thing out on my own. I don't need anything. Leave me alone, right? And off we go. We chase success, we chase approval, we chase distraction, we chase everything else, and we forget God. And we forget God. And we blow our inheritance, right? Which metaphysically is our divine awareness. That's what that means. Your inheritance is your divine awareness, and we let go of it. We blow it. But can we really blow it? Not really. But that's what happens in our attention, our life, our energy on things we spend that never satisfy our soul. And so what is that in modern day life? Distractions. It's our cell phone. It's our looking at our computer. It's about making everything else more important than our own inner world, our own light. In the faraway country, because that's where he went, metaphysically, what does that represent? It's not a physical place. This is consciousness. In other words, his consciousness went as far away from his own indwelling Christ as it possibly could. It's a state of mind where we feel disconnected, alone, separate from God, and we all have been there. All of us have been there, right? It's when the outer world becomes more real than the inner world, right? Sound familiar? Maybe just a little bit? Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Everyone's going, uh-oh, he's talking about. I'm talking about all of us. I'm talking about all of us, right? And the famine. So famine hit, right? What does that represent? So that's what happens when we live disconnected from source. It's not punishment. It's not. It's consequences. What happens when you forget God in your life? What happens? Disconnected, not feeling good, feeling like you can't do enough, feeling like you're screwing something up. All the things, right? Because when we forget who we are, we're empty. We are completely empty. And no amount of achievement, no amount of validation, no scrolling files fixes that. Nothing. It won't fix it. Why? Because it's your inner world. That's the part that's missing. So then he winds up doing what? The prodigal son winds up feeding the pigs. Metaphysically interpretation, pigs often represent lower states of thinking. So he's feeding, think about it, he's feeding lower states of thinking. I don't need God. I don't need to worry about my connection. I don't need to do this. So in this moment where we're not just disconnected, but we're also feeding the pigs. That's what we're doing. And we're sustaining thoughts that don't serve us in any way, shape, or form. They don't. Fear, lack, unworthiness. Want to pile a few more on there? Right? So we've got all these things that are rolling around in the back of our head, right? And then what happens is he finally winds up realizing this. He finally has this awareness. And he says to himself, and this is the moment where all of a sudden everything starts to change. And it doesn't change when life gets better. It doesn't change, anything changes other than what? It's an internal thing that happens to him. It's not external. It happens when his awareness all of a sudden starts to return. Oh. It's when that thing inside of you all of a sudden says, this isn't who I am. It's not. This is actually the indwelling Christ. This is the awakening. This is the time when the thing that's been tapping you on your shoulder gently, patiently, lovingly brings out the 2x4. That's what that's about. And it's a time that says it's time to pay attention. This thing inside of you is not going to sleep. It's not going to go away. It is not and cannot any longer be ignored. And then all of a sudden you just go, oh, I got to go back here. I got to get back into my heart. And then he returns. He starts his journey back. He doesn't earn his way back, and understand that. There's no earning. He remembers his way back. There's a big difference between you earning your divinity and you remembering your divinity. Traditional Christianity and other teachings will tell you that you have to earn it. You don't have to earn a damn thing. Nothing. Because of who and what you are. You are holy and have that running through your veins right here, right now. You do. And so he remembers his way back. And this, honestly, is unity all day long. That's what unity talks about. You don't become worthy of God. You awaken to the fact that you never weren't God. Whoa. Big difference. Can you see it? More importantly, can you feel it? That's the kicker right there, is to feel that inside of you, right? And then what happens? The father comes out running to him. He doesn't wait. You didn't see the father going, yeah, I'll get to the kid when I can get to the kid. I'm busy. He goes running to the kid. Because why? Because the moment you turn inward, even slightly, I promise you, you are going to be met with love. Unconditional love. Not eventually, not after you fix yourself, not, well, this is going to take a while, Mike, because I got to go do 5 more years of therapy, and I got to take care of this, and then we got to work on this, and then, oh boy, don't forget about that one. That's all right here, by the way. That's all right here, and has nothing to do with the truth of who you are. Because the truth of who you are is the brilliant, brilliant light of God, right here, right now. That's the truth, right? And then, of course, the older brother, and what he represents is that part of us that says, well, I've done everything right. Where's my reward, right? Which most of us don't have that problem, but if you do. But it's often the voice of comparison the voice of resentment, the voice of ego, our spiritual ego. Well, look at me. I do all of my meditations. I say all my affirmations, and therefore I should have this because look at everything I've done. And I think in the background, God's kind of giggling a little bit. Keep going. Keep doing that. Let me know how that works for you, right? And then ultimately, God gently reminds him, the truth is, you never left. The truth is, I never left. That's not how it works. And the translation comes down to this, is that in truth, you have access to everything that you need every single minute, every single day, right here, right now. But you didn't know how to receive it. You didn't know how to receive it because we've been told, and it's been beaten into our heads and beaten into our soul for century after century, generation after generation, that what? We are less than. We are separate. We were born in original sin. And you can keep piling on top of that list all day long. But that's what we've been told. And guess what? We believed it. And guess what we're doing here? We're trying to help you not believe it anymore. We're trying to remind you of who you really are, which is the brilliant light of God. That's who you really are. You are, right? And then God ultimately says, yeah, because you never left, which means you have access to everything. And so that's the takeaway. Don't be like the prodigal son, because let's be honest, all of us have taken that trip. All of us have. We've gotten far, far, far away. But the real message in this is you can never be separate from God, ever. You can't be separate. You can only believe that you are. That you can do. And you can have the experience that you are separate from God. God loves you so much that God will give you the ability to have the experience of being separated from it, even though you're not. What did he just say? What? Yes, God loves you so much that he will allow you to have a belief that you are separate from God, even though it's completely impossible for that to happen. That's how much God loves you. That is mind-blowing to me. It's mind-blowing to me. And the moment you begin to turn inward, remember, it's about connection. It's about this idea of already being home, right? And so maybe the question isn't, how far have I wandered? Because some of you feel that right now. I know you do. It's okay. It's good. Like, really, you're okay. You're not lost. Maybe forgot a little bit. But instead of how far have I wandered, maybe instead say, well, how about, am I ready to come to myself? Am I ready to come home? Am I ready to go within? Because the truth is, God isn't waiting to judge you. Never has been, ever. That's not the way it works. God, in truth, is already running towards you. I want you to feel that. God is already running. He's not walking. He's not taking his time. She's not taking her time. She is running toward you to embrace you with open arms. And not because you finally got it right. It's actually because, in truth, you were never lost to begin with, ever. Just remember that we all forget. We all have our moments. In fact, I would argue that we're almost programmed to do it. It's almost a setup. And we all do it. We all have our moments. But I also want you to remember that forgetting isn't failure. It's not in any way, shape, or form. It's just part of this human experience that we all go through. And so the invitation here for you today is not to be perfect. The invitation is actually just to remember, to pause, to actually take the time to go within and find your own kingdom of heaven that we were told is within us, and to reconnect with that presence, because in truth is that presence has never left you, ever. And here's the thing. You don't have to go searching for God. You don't have to earn your way back. You don't have to fix yourself first. Why? Because that door, just like the prodigal son figured out, is always open. Always, 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 always open. And every time you choose stillness, every time you choose reconnection over noise, awareness over distraction, connection over control, you are in that moment, you're coming home. And that's what it's about, folks. Every single one of us is in the process of coming home. Every single one of us. And for every single one of us, it looks a little bit differently. So don't ever start comparing yourself to whoever. Well, look at that person. Man, they got it together. Because you know what? They're trying to figure it out just like you are, just like I am. And the truth and the reality of it is, just like all the masters, They all had their moments. They did. And if they were down here and they were talking, they would say, "Yep, boy, let me tell you a story." I don't know about you, but wouldn't you love to read a book about all the master's stories about how they really, really screwed up in life? Wouldn't that just make them more real? I just think it would be a fun book to read. I'm just saying. So, anyways, thank you for coming in this morning. Thank you for spending time with us. Your presence makes a difference. Don't ever forget that. You are an incredible blessing to us, to this congregation, to this church family, each and every one of you. And my God, what a blessing to me. I mean that with all my heart and all my soul. I absolutely adore you. And I totally 100% will never, ever, ever, as long as I got breath in these lungs, let you forget that. Don't forget that. Don't ever forget that. And it's never, ever, ever too late. Ever. So thank you. Thank you for joining us today. God bless. Namaste and Namaway. God bless you.